Hi, it's Reggie. Tonight's episode marks the beginning of something a little different here on Moonlight and Moments. This is the first of a three-part psychological suspense trilogy called The Three Times I Loved Myself. Over the next three episodes, we'll follow one character, Cyril, as she moves through the haunting echoes of her past, the weight of her present, and the reckoning that waits in her future. But this trilogy isn't just about mystery or memory. It's about what it means to return to yourself, to look back at the versions of you who were scared, lost, or silent, and choose to love them anyway. This first episode is called What the Past Left Behind. It begins with a girl waking in a forest, a red thread tied around her wrist, and no memory of how she got there. Her mother is missing, her home feels changed, and something inside her knows that a truth long buried is beginning to resurface. And if you've been listening for a while, I want to share something personal with you. When I started this podcast, my dream was to create a gentle, late night space, a place you could listen at the end of the day, a quiet invitation into rest and reflection. For all of us who find ourselves avoiding bedtime or scrolling to delay stillness, the Moonlight in Moments has always been a soft place to land, a space to stop, breathe, and come back to yourself. But for a long time, I didn't like the sound of my voice. So I let AI narrate these episodes because it was easier to hear someone else tell the story. Until now. Because self love is about learning to trust your own voice, literally and emotionally. And if I'm asking you to love yourself better than yesterday, I have to do the same. So this episode is the first I've fully narrated myself. And I hope in some way it gives you permission to love the sound of your own voice too. So wherever you are, lights off, phone on, do not disturb, maybe curled up under blankets. I invite you to let the story guide you gently into rest, reflection, and something deeper than sleep. So take a breath and let's begin. The first thing she notices is the cold. Not the kind that cuts, but the kind that soaks through. Damp earth, dew on her skin. The kind of cold that suggests she's been here for a long time, maybe hours. Her fingers are stiff. Her knees are raw. The ground beneath her is pressed with the shape of her body. She doesn't remember falling asleep. When she opens her eyes, she sees sky. Gray, pale, quiet. The trees stretch tall above her, branches swaying gently, like they're watching. There's a hum in the forest. Not quite birdsong, more like something buzzing in her ears. She sits up slowly. Her wrist stings. Wrapped tightly around it is a single red thread, looped 3 times and tied in a perfect knot. The thread snakes away into the trees. It looks like it wants her to follow. She doesn't know why, but she does. Her body moves on instinct, feet bruised by sticks and stones. She's barefoot. Her clothes are damp. There's dry blood under one fingernail. Her head pounds softly, like it's remembering something she's not allowed to know. She follows the thread until the trees thin and she steps into a clearing. And there it is. The house. Her house. It shouldn't feel unfamiliar, but it does. The porch sags the way it always has. The screen door still squeals, but everything feels stretched. Too quiet, like the house is holding its breath. She steps inside. The kitchen light is on. Her father sits at a table, slowly chewing. He looks up, sees her standing there, barefoot and scratched and shaking, and only says, "Don't scare us like that again." That's all. Not, "Where were you?" Not, "Are you hurt?" Just that. She wants to scream, but the sound stays locked inside her throat. Her mother is gone. No one says the word missing. They say left, walked away, needed a break. But Sai knows. She knows the house doesn't feel full anymore. She knows her mother wouldn't leave without her necklace. The necklace that's sitting in the center of the living room rug. She picks it up and her vision goes hazy, just for a moment. There's a memory trying to break through, a voice calling her name, a hallway full of light, and at the end of it, a figure, tall, still, pale. She blinks, the light flickers, but when she looks again, the hallway is empty. She backs into her room, shuts the door. Her hands are shaking as she opens her sketchbook, drawings she doesn't remember making. The same figure, over and over, always standing in a doorway. No face, no eyes, just presence. At night, she dreams of footsteps and gold light. She wakes gasping and sees something in the mirror that wasn't there before. Dirt on her hands. She gets up, walks to the laundry room, opens the bin. Buried beneath her clothes is a red thread, cut clean through. Her fingers tremble as she holds it, but this time, she doesn't hide it, doesn't throw it away. She stares at it, feels the tightness in her chest shift. Something inside her, quiet and small, says, "You've been here before." Not in the woods, inside the silence, inside the not knowing. And this time, she's not going to pretend it didn't happen. Not again. She wraps the red thread around her finger like a promise. She doesn't know what it means yet, but she knows it's hers. And she's going to follow it, no matter where it leads. There's something disorienting about not knowing how you got somewhere. Waking up in a place that doesn't match the last thing you remember. Holding something, an object, a feeling, a moment that you know means something, but you can't quite place why. That's not just suspense, that's trauma. Because trauma doesn't always scream. It slips in sideways. It buries itself in small, silent ways. Sometimes it feels like forgetting. Sometimes like too much remembering all at once. Sometimes like walking through your own life and feeling like a stranger in it. Sai's story begins in confusion, yes, but beneath that is something more precise. The body remembering what the mind refuses to. A red thread around the wrist, dirt on her fingers, a house that looks the same but doesn't feel the same. And no one asking the right questions. So many of us know that moment, the one where something felt off. But the people around us smiled and said, "You're just tired," or "Don't make things up," or "You're overreacting." So we learn to doubt the knowing inside us. We learn to bury the thread. The body keeps it, quietly, carefully. The red thread in this story is more than just mystery. It's memory. Memory that waited patiently. Memory that trusted you'd come back to it one day. There's no monster chasing her. Not yet. Just a silence she's finally brave enough to stop filling with lies. And here's the truth that starts the healing. What happened to you mattered. Even if no one saw it. Even if you forgot it. Even if you were told not to speak it aloud. Somewhere deep inside, your thread is still intact. You can pick it up at any time. You don't have to know where it leads. You just have to let yourself notice that it's there and that it's yours. Have you ever found something and thought, "I should remember this, but I don't"? A photo, a smell, a fragment of a conversation. And suddenly there's a pressure behind your eyes or in your chest, like your body knows a story you're not ready to hear. That's what the red thread is. In the story, it winds around Sai's wrist. But in life, it can look like other things. A panic attack with no obvious cause. A sudden irrational fear of a certain hallway. Certain season. Certain name. That heavy feeling after a dream you can't quite remember. These are threads, and most of us carry them quietly. The truth is, many people walk around like Sai, appearing functional, even brilliant, but hunted by blank spaces. Not just forgotten memories, but erased ones. Moments sealed behind doors they didn't even realize they closed. Not because they're weak, not because they're broken, but because their mind was protecting them the only way it knew how, by keeping them safe from what felt too big to face. You don't need to have lost a parent or woken in the woods to understand sigh. You just need to know what it feels like to question your own reality. To wonder if maybe you made it up, if maybe you're the one who's wrong for being scared, and to feel the quiet voice inside, the one that says, something happened, and to silence it again and again, because the people around you didn't want to hear it. But just like Sai, you may find yourself at a point where something small wakes up inside you. A thread, barely visible, but pulsing with memory. It doesn't force itself, it waits. And when you're ready, it lets you follow. There is no right timeline for this, no perfect way to remember, no neat ending to grief. But if any part of you has ever felt lost in a place that should feel like home, if you've ever felt unseen in your own story, you're not alone. This episode isn't about solving the mystery, it's about something deeper. Realizing there is a mystery and deciding quietly not to ignore it anymore. That choice to stop pretending, even just a little, is a form of returning, of remembering that your truth is still waiting for you, and it never stopped being real. If you're feeling the tug of something unspoken, something forgotten or pushed away, you don't have to dive into it headfirst. Healing doesn't require a spotlight. Sometimes it begins with a whisper. Start small. Notice what stirs something inside you. A scent that pulls you back. A place you always avoid. A reflection that feels too big for the moment it arrives in. Those are red threads. You don't have to pull them yet. Just notice them. Let yourself write something down, no matter how unclear or fragmented. Maybe, I don't know what happened, but my body remembers something. I used to wake up afraid and didn't know why. Something feels missing from this memory. Or write a letter, not to someone else, but to the version of you who lived through silence. You might say, I believe you, even if I don't remember everything yet. You didn't imagine it. You did what you needed to survive. Sometimes the truth doesn't return in words. It comes in sensations, in dreams, in drawings like sighs. Let them speak. Let them stay a while, even if they don't make sense yet. And most of all, remember that the moment you stop pretending to be fine is the moment healing begins. Even if you do nothing else today, know this. You don't have to explain your pain for it to be real. You don't have to remember it clearly for it to matter. You don't have to be ready to heal all at once. You just have to know the thread is still there, and it's yours to follow whenever you choose. Close your eyes if that feels safe. Take a slow breath in and gently let it out. Now imagine you are standing at the edge of a quiet forest. The sky is pale above you, still soft with the early morning light. The air carries a damp hush, like the whole world is holding its breath. At your feet, a single red thread. You bend down and gently pick it up. It's warm, familiar, like something that once belonged to you. As you begin walking, the thread weaves gently ahead of you, between trees over moss-covered stones, through pools of light and shadow. You don't have to rush. You're not being chased. You're just following something that already knows the way. As you walk, you begin to notice other things. A version of yourself, younger, waiting beside a tree. She looks at you, not with fear but hope. You don't have to speak, just sit beside her. And maybe for the first time, you let her feel seen. Then you keep walking. Ahead, the thread disappears into the steps of a house. One you recognize, not from where you live now, but from somewhere deep inside. It's quiet inside. Still, you place your hand on the doorknob, but you don't open it yet. You just stand there, breathing, rooted, knowing that even if you don't remember everything, even if the story isn't finished, you're not lost. You are returning to yourself, one breath, one step, one thread at a time. Let that be enough for today. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes, or just stay here a little longer in the stillness. What the past leaves behind doesn't always show up in big ways. Sometimes it's something small, like a food you used to eat so often. You can still feel it in your mouth even years later. For me, that food is called munggo, a simple Filipino mung bean stew. We had it a lot growing up, more than I ever wanted to. I remember one time I had to quietly spit it out the window because I couldn't eat it anymore. We were raised by our step-grandmother while our mom worked overseas to support us. She never failed to send money. She gave everything she could from far away. But in the house we grew up in, it didn't feel like we were cared for. Not really. We were made to feel small. There were other moments too, harsher ones. On one of those days, all three of us, my sisters and I, were punished. Tied to the railing of a balcony, my youngest sister placed in a sack. It sounds unbelievable even now, but it happened. These are the stories I carry, not every day, not with constant pain, but they're there. Quiet reminders of what we came from, and how far we've come. I haven't eaten mungo since, not because I need to forgive it, but because I don't need to explain why it made me feel the way it did. Sometimes your red thread is a memory in your body. Sometimes it's something you never touched again. Not because it ruined you, but because you knew you didn't have to carry it anymore. This trilogy and this first episode is my way of honoring that girl. The one that didn't know how to speak her truth back then. And the one who tells her story now with clarity, not shame. If you've ever carried something quietly, something small that still hums in your memory, maybe tonight gave you permission to look at it differently. You don't have to relive it. You don't have to make peace with it. You just have to know it happened, you survived it, and you are still here. Thank you for being here with me tonight. Follow Moonlight and Moments wherever you listen, and share this with someone who might need a little light today. Until next time, and as always, love yourself better than yesterday.
It started with silence, a sound I had known. A thread on my wrist led me back home. But home had changed, or maybe I had. The echoes returned, but they didn't feel bad. What the past left behind was a whisper, not a scream. A feeling in the body, not a memory or a scene. I followed it slowly and found something true. What the past left behind was the part of me I never knew. I stopped pretending it didn't exist. The cold in my chest, it trembled, a twist. It wasn't a ghost, it wasn't a lie. It was me all along, just waiting nearby. You don't need to pull it, the thread will stay until you're ready. that way. What the past left behind was a weakness of shame. It was proof I survived with no one to blame. Now I sit with the quiet and let it be mine. What the past left behind is a self I now find. I stopped pretending it didn't exist. The cold in my chest, the tremor, the twist. It wasn't a ghost, it wasn't a lie. It was me all alone, just waiting nearby. You don't need to pull it, the thread will stay until you're ready to look that way. You don't need to pull it, the thread will stay until you're ready to look that way.